Faith in a Fresh Vibe podcast. My name is Rohadi. Welcome. Coming at you from Treaty 7 lands here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is the second part of an interview that I had with illustrator Riley Rossmo in the first edition from our House Conversation series as part of a summer rhythm with Cypher Church. We discussed the start of his career as an illustrator, as a successful now comic book illustrator. If you're an artist or anyone who's interested in the comic book world, then listen to that part one. In this edition, we have part two where we start to dig deeper into questions and explorations of the Christian faith. So have a listen in. Through this whole process now, you are committing to the artistic grind.
Yeah.
Right? But there's still life beyond that. And I met you probably not quite 10 years, maybe almost 10 years ago. And around that same time, you are starting to interact more with asking bigger questions about life and faith and spirituality, and there's starts to be intersections. So we want to have a conversation on faith in a fresh vibe, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a really interesting journey in your life, which started kind of around the same time you worked at the house, the coffee shop, or what was the catalyst there to some of the early questioning of your faith journey? Can I use that term, faith journey?
I guess. But I think, before then, I've always been interested in, why people do what they do, what their motivations are, what my motivations are. What's the who I am, who we are, and why we're here.
That's just sort of your makeup as a person, as you want to ask these big why questions.
Yeah. I think so. I've been like that as long as you've known me, right?
Yeah, sure.
I don't like dogma. I don't like dogma.
No rules.
It's the why stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so before that, I've always needed just a lens to see I've been looking for a lens to see the world. What's a effective lens for any given point in time? I'm looking for I don't know.
What do you mean by effective lens? What was it trying to answer?
Who I am.
Yeah.
Like I said, those big questions.
To answer that.
Why we're here.
So
I think that's the biggest question on earth. I'm interested, when as a kid I was interested in why animals do what they do, all the kid stuff, but the other stuff too. I like cultural expressions, all kinds of cultural expressions, and I want to know all the answers about that stuff. And I feel like I've always wanted to hear why people do whatever they do, whatever their cultural practices are, or ideas or philosophies.
So where does that journey take you early on in your exploration? Because you would have asked a lot of questions I'm certain that journey takes you into all different places, religions, worldviews.
Yeah, all those things.
Yeah.
Philosophical worldviews.
So what were some of the things you were intersecting with?
Well, in college, I started having to read Plato, and I really like Plato a lot. I still like Plato a lot, and Marx, and for a long time, I was like communism, some sort of if there was a
why, and a system.
The system of communism. If there's a kind communist system where there's no dictators, I'm this is the important
that was
thing.
Your
There's
jam.
no leaders.
Yeah.
No no God, that'll work. There's some sort of humanist experiment, communist humanist thing. That's where when I started school, I was like, this is it.
So in college, that was you were part of the communist club. Were you on
I'm interested in those ideas and exploring those ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting.
So
communes are interesting to me. But in a philosophy class, I went to school with a guy who had experienced, he came from a war-torn country where there was a guerrilla group that was communist.
Yeah.
And he fought with me and argued with me.
Saying
Every class he would argue with me he would just argue with me about it. And he is a Mormon guy, and so he is coming in from this faith position, and I was like, no, this is not good. This, it's an
What wasn't
opiate for the
good?
masses.
Oh,
The
religion.
religion. I was like,
Religion now.
it's oppressing people.
Yeah.
I don't totally disagree with that. That's
So he
not
was
all
saying
of it,
two things, though. He was saying no to communism, your worldview at the
Yeah.
time, and he was also saying yes to religion, and
Yes.
you're saying no to both of those.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, what did that catalyze in you?
It just the dialogue. The dialogue just kept coming, and but I was open to it. I'm like, tell me all the different the nuances in the Mormon faith, and tell me why I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Tell me
Yeah.
why communism is wrong and why it's not effective.
Yeah. There's a journey now from that, and so you would say that you, and just as your person, you are love to ask these big questions on life,
Hmm.
and also love the conversation and dialogue with people from different worldview,
Absolutely.
and that has shaped. How does that shape you to wind up where you are today, though?
Well, because I'm trying to find the why, the answering the why
Yeah.
questions. How questions are there's more answers. I feel like,
So my question to that though is, how does the Jesus God part then become a suitable answer to that? Because I'm guessing you're
but it's not.
searching.
It's not so. It's a search. There's a
Yeah,
search, and there's always a search. But
absolutely.
I was people. I kept on intersecting with people of faith and not exclusively Christian and not necessarily Christian, but it just kept coming into my life. And at some point in time, I was like, well, what can I explore here and what's valid? And I'm like, well, Jesus. I'll look around. I'll look at Jesus and Jesus as a person. And I'm like, okay, Jesus is okay. And the Old Testament God, I don't know where that goes, but ongoing dialogues around that. And then in my neighborhood, like at the house, there was the people working there were actually engaged in their community. They were doing this stuff on lots of levels that I think that Christians should practice. Like when you stand outside it, they're not. It wasn't just about the dogma, and it wasn't just about doing the stuff. It was engaging with the poor, engaging, and not just the poor, but engaging with all people on equal, like on an equal level. And that place was important and is important to me still, is because it was people of faith engaging with people of faith or not of faith, of any background, in a kind, loving, just way. I felt most of the time.
So was your interaction with the staff at the coffee shop? If you don't remember, the house, it was a coffee shop in Kensington that closed probably 5 years ago. So that
Or
was
more, yeah.
formative for you, those relationships. That was the. Would you say that's a catalyst or a catalyst?
One of the catalysts, but also it was an interesting place because it was a meeting of like It was supported by an evangelical church, but there was often an interaction with radical atheists or New Age people, and like a dialogue occurring. It wasn't just a one sided thing. There was like one of my friends that's adamantly atheistic. We explored that endlessly from both sides of the discussion. And I guess that my real takeaway at the end of it is that treating people kindly is good for me, is good for the community, and I'm seeing people practice what they preach. And
So there were specific things that were appealing to you that these other systems, let's say communism or Marxism, or you mentioned Buddhism, there were pieces that were okay in those, but it wasn't as answering the whole questions of why for you.
yeah, and I still, and we've talked about that before. Is that like I think like a lot about Buddhism is good, Taoism works for me, and I don't know if systems need to be wisdom traditions or systems need to be exclusive or not. But Christ is grace. I think is special. Is something special that some other systems don't have
So
or
what?
traditions don't have.
Let's go down that road along this grace piece. There are features of then the Christian faith, or what Jesus is about, that deeply appealed to you, that
Yeah,
answered that core question of why.
yeah.
And what are some of them? Grace, you said. So why grace?
Well, because it's not something that's you can't earn it. There's no matter what I do, I don't have to be. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be perfect. And I don't know if there is something to be perfect to strive to, or if I'm created perfect anyways. But grace is there for that.
Why was that deeply appealing to you?
Well, because I do like I think that the idea of karma is really appealing, but I'm just never going to be able to make up all my karma. I don't think. I don't think I can try and try and try and try, but there's always going to be circumstances that, and I might not understand it in the proper way, but that I'd be able to make up for all the karma. Like I'm too selfish and flawed, and that's it. And then so the cycle is just be eternal. I don't think I could get to nirvana. I don't think if I could ever achieve enlightenment, and that doesn't mean you should give up necessarily. But there's it's not monetary, but there's like
It's a transaction.
a
in there.
transactional sort of system,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And the tank may be empty by the time you reach the end. I think there are compelling things that often many of us have grown up, I think, in traditions where we need to hang on to our exclusivity. And I believe that there are pieces that I'll hang on to Jesus as my core piece. But I also realize that there are intersections with these different traditions and faiths and value in the midst of those.
Yeah.
But there's something about that Christ story that compels me that the others haven't, and you've kind of found that same realization in your journey.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'm that always that sure. Like if it's always that sure of a thing, because I still read all kinds of books by all kinds of different people from different traditions, and but it's something that's the nearest to explore. Like I know more experts,
But
I
it's not
guess.
merely an expert thing, though, because you said this is also this experiential and also relational thing that you've
Yeah.
connected with other people
Yeah.
that answer your core question of why.
Yeah.
I think it's a good process to commit to of I don't know if this is a term of like a lingering faith versus saying, oh, it's just my doubts, which is also good and important, I think. But it's like this lingering faith of always interacting with those questions of doubt.
But and I don't know where that begins and where that ends, because
Maybe it doesn't.
like the Jesus, I feel like there's not I don't have a lot of reservations about, but
Yeah.
there's all the baggage with it that's problematic. And I've told you this before. The Old Testament, I really I don't know what to do with that. But I think that yeah, like Christ is easy to get behind, I think.
So we talked about the grace piece. Let's talk about now you coming into some a real semblance of faith. How does that impact you as a creator?
Well, because I think that some of this stuff I have a hard time locking down, like the specifics, is because we've talked about too, is that the reason I think I kind of am at where I'm at is because I feel like I explored materialism to as far as it would go, and then was
Yeah.
left with like, I don't think this works pragmatically. Like I don't know how to live in from that worldview, but also I don't know that with my experience what I do if that's reflective of that either.
So unpack. Give us the 10-second of what is materialism.
Or physicalism, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so the world is only made up of matter. That's it. There's no
And the
creative
implications on your
intelligence
life.
behind it, and
So what are the implications to the
where
question of why? No purpose.
the universe is accidental, emergent from nothing. There's a singularity that somehow occurs because there's
Yeah.
12,
Why doesn't that
12
work as a
dimensions
creator?
that are fluctuating,
Yeah.
and then
It doesn't work. Why?
well, because I create stuff all the time, and I feel like I have like a creative force, and there's like it's hard to articulate, but it comes from somewhere, and I like people would say it's brain generated, or consciousness is a epiphenomenon, but even then, sometimes like I don't feel like when I'm working a lot of the time, the stuff that's just like education helps, like you can learn the formal aspects of creation, of like designing a page or whatever. But it feels like I discover the drawing. I don't always feel like I'm making the drawing. I feel like I'm looking for the right thing. And the closer I am to whatever that is, the easier it is. The days that's the like space between me and whatever's, this is really abstract. I'm really sorry, guys. Whatever's out there where it comes from, like the creator, creation.
Yeah.
And I hate labeling this stuff, and that's why like this even like the word faith I'm not
Yeah.
super comfortable with. But
Yeah.
there's like I feel like there's a field, a creative field out there that on the days that I feel really good about it, like I can connect with it closely, and it emerges. But I don't ever feel like I'm generating
That
the
feeling.
stuff. I feel like I'm always looking for the right shape. Like I'm looking for the right figure on the page, and it comes out of like I don't know where it comes from, because some days most days I get up and I see the blank page in front of me and I'm like, I don't know, I don't have, this is gonna go badly.
Like every day, like when you say most days, like even now, you wake up and look
I
at
keep
that blank
thinking
page.
after 15 years I'm gonna sit down and be like, oh, this is no problem, I'm gonna do this. But sometimes it's like the harder I try to the harder I try to control it, the less is there, and the more I sort of like just lean into what sort of like comes. To me it's magic. I mean,
I don't know if this speaks to it, but something they taught us, because I met him in art school, and something they taught us in art school is nothing is original. And I feel like that's not true. I just feel like that can't be possible with you because of the way that you create.
I don't know. That's a really good compliment.
That's a good word,
That's a
though.
really good compliment.
That's a good word.
I feel like
She must love you too. That's a big fan there. Hey.
Well, but you said you have to feel it. It's not something that necessarily comes from like all the inspiration you've had. It's something you have to feel.
Yeah,
So
like
that's different than
I feel like I'm learning to get out of the way.
Get out of the, so, but do you put,
Like in school, I felt like I was in the way because I was trying to do a thing, and now I try and I try and let it happen, the work happen.
what are you getting out of the way of?
I don't know.
I've heard it said that artists believe in magic or the things unseen.
Well, this might make you maybe this will make you uncomfortable
Yeah,
because
me,
in some
yeah.
ways it's kind of like an occult thing. Like it's like a magical practice in some ways.
Well, why does it have to be occult? Like I
Well, it
find
doesn't
it
have
as
because sort of hidden,
like
right?
it is
Like
the things
occult's
that are
hidden
unseen,
stuff.
sure.
Yeah.
But why
so I've
occulty? Like, if there is not a source of goodness, why can't you tap into that goodness? And
Well,
maybe I'm
it can
using
be, but
occult in the pejorative, but
maybe it's like it's a manifesting of things. I mean, to me, it's magic because there's nothing and then there's something. It's
yeah,
like
no, I think
that's a magical act to me. There's like the creative act is magical, and so if it's, I guess it depends how you define magic.
yeah,
But
sure, yeah.
I don't know what that is to say. I have like some graphite and a piece of paper, and then later on a computer, and then there's these characters that are doing things on a page in a universe that's not there, that now is there, that other people could come inhabit.
Yeah,
That I don't know. That's magic, right?
that's taking something that has been floating out in thin air and making it real.
Yeah. So then the real question, and this is what I'm more comfortable with than labeling thing always, is like that thing
Yeah,
is what I want to know what the why of that thing is, and how do I know that thing, and what that's when I start to feel depressed and nihilistic. That's sort of where I go. Is that gives me hope.
So how do you deal with that tension then? The tension of you want to leave things unanswered, don't want to put a label to it, but at the same time you have encountered this source or these suitable answers to your lingering questions of why.
I don't know. That's a real tension.
Yeah.
And then
how do you deal with it?
And then the people that I've had in my life that help that have helped explain that, and it's, because like I've come, like because I know you and like our friends Derek and Rob, before that my sort of view of church or church culture was all like the negative stuff that you see on TV. It's all that. And maybe I left that piece out about the house, is that that was the first time in my life, and I was hecka suspicious too. Like I was always
Yeah,
suspicious when
I
I was
was
going there.
too.
I was like,
Yeah.
"What's going on here?
Yeah.
Why is
No,
everyone
for
so
sure.
nice? Why is it so clean
I
in
thought it was the
here?"
front.
And I just kept
And like
waiting. I'm
yeah.
like, when is somebody gonna just like, you know,
You're waiting for the shoe
tell
to
me I'm
drop.
going to hell?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but all the people I've met that have strong sort of like spiritual practices and beliefs are buck that stereotype.
There was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should edit this back into you have to edit this back into that other piece.
And the start piece,
Yeah.
the house piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I like this magic piece a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean the whole piece of being creator is pulling that stuff out of thin air. Yeah, we can call it like magic, sure. Like I source that in the spirit of God. I can be in tune with that, and I cannot be. And part of fighting who is it? Stephen Pressfield. Part of fighting the dragon is just showing up on the field and starting
Yeah.
to produce.
Well, yeah, and that's a lot of. I mean, that's the other side of it, is that you just sometimes you just have to be at your desk until the thing happens.
And produce and commit to
Yeah.
the yeah. And you through the whole thing will face the tension of the dragon or resistance or whatever you want to call it that's
Yeah.
preventing, which has huge life applications too. It's not just mere art, but it can be the trials that you're facing as a person, or it can be the realities of you pressing through growth
Yeah.
as a person too, of fighting resistance, right? Tell us as we trail off here to the end about the tension of dealing with some of the questions of this is not a suitable answer to why. Things like problems with the bad stuff, problems with evil in the system of belief. Can I use that? Because you said I don't like the faith label. Is belief going to work?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Rob
tension.
Bell says wisdom tradition. That's his thing.
In terms of what does he use that for?
Wisdom traditions instead of like
Instead of beliefs?
no, like instead of Christian or
Oh,
Buddhist
oh, oh.
or
Let's end with because this has been a question that you and I have been dialoguing with, and of course never going to answer, but it's applicable, I think, for all of us at some point asking questions on like the hardest questions, man, and the problem of evil, of good and evil. Like, why would a just God allow evil in this world, allow evil to happen to me, allow evil to happen all around us? And you've been processing a lot of
that's a big problem. That's
Yeah.
a very big problem. And and again, that's where some other traditions too, it makes a lot more sense. Like karma, that works much better.
Yeah, how so?
Right? Well, because it's just you accumulate bad karma for bad decisions. So if somebody does something evil, they have to deal with it in their next incarnation, right? Like that's again, and I'm not an expert on Buddhism, so but that works good. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why it's there, right? Whereas if like the thing that I've been wrestling with and how it works is how does a good creator either if creates a devil or allows real evil, because if God's all powerful, then you either created the evil thing to torment people and corrupt them, or you let evil exist. And those are problems, right? Those
Absolutely.
are big problems. That's why the Old Testament thing is the issue for me. The Old Testament God, I don't know how to process. Whereas Jesus, I'm like, he works for me. I understand kindness, accepting others, accepting people that are different than you, healing people, feeding people.
Was part 2 of a 2-part interview with Riley Rossmo at the Cypher Church House Conversations from 2019. I really valued his take on the magic, how creators are drawing in from a source, some type of source they're tapping into, and how as image bearers of a creative God, we have a source to pull from. So that was an interesting piece from our conversation on faith. I really appreciate his honesty as well. Exploring faith is something that we all should do. We should question. We should throw out as many questions as we have with respect to the things that we thought we believed, the things that people are throwing at us to believe, and the things we once believed, and hopefully will continue to believe or perhaps shift just slightly as we move forward and grow deeper in our faith. If you're someone who is exploring what it means to deconstruct faith, or someone who is just really brand new in the Christian faith, know that there are other people who are along the same journey as you, and they're asking questions, and there may not be all the answers, but what you do have, hopefully, is a community of people who will be with you along the journey as you figure out how to answer some of the human longings that you have. We all share in the same longings. That's my belief, at least. There are longings to be loved, ultimately, longings for justice, longings for spiritual connection, longings for beauty, to live out our artistic side, our creative side. Those are all human longings, and I think that the best answer is found in the Christian faith, maybe not with all the rules and the doctrines and the dogmas, but in Jesus we have a source where we can springboard from. So I encourage you to keep on searching and dig deeper. Don't give up on that process, and find a couple of friends along the way to join with you on that journey. Thanks for tuning in to this edition. We've shared a number of different podcasts here on the Faith in the Fresh Vibe podcast series. Up next will be a conversation with my friend Tony Snow. He's going to share with us an indigenous perspective of the Christian faith, one that's in particular unique to this region in Calgary or on Treaty 7 lands, but one that I think has pieces throughout this place we call the northern part of Turtle Island. Thanks for tuning in, and I trust that you pulled out some ideas here to sit on for a little while.